Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Punaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Let us read verse number 5. No deti nastya metyesha na vruddhim yati nakshayam svayam vipatya thanyani bhasayet sadhanam vina. So in this verse, the nature of Chiti or Chaitanya is shown, that it is free from Shadvikaras. Shadvikaras are found in other things. Asti, Jayate, Vardhate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyati. These are the 6 changes. These are each and everything that has come into existence goes through these 6 things. That it comes, it is born, and then gradually it goes through one by one changes. And the last changes that it is destroyed. So everything that comes into existence is bound to be born and bound to become extinct one day. Whereas this does not apply to Chitihi, or this does not apply to consciousness. So whatever is changing, understand, the rules are being given. Whatever is dependent, whatever is changing is not on its own. Whatever is changing, whatever is dependent is not true. Whereas that which is not dependent, alone is true. Dependent in the sense for its illumination, for it to be. So now one thing is very clear, that matter or Prakriti is always Paraprakashya. Paraprakashya means it comes into existence, or rather it is illumined by someone else, something else. Whereas Chitihi or Chaitanya is that which is self-illumining, self-effulgent. Okay? Now keep this in mind. Now we go to verse number 6. Now the question was that there are 2 things. This much we have now, up to this point, this is the observation. What? That there are 2 things. One is consciousness and other one is matter. Other thing is matter. Consciousness is not seen and matter is seen and it is dependent. Okay. Now, where does this ego come? That will be the question. So now, where is the samsara? Who feels bound? As we discussed in the last class, that matter can have no feeling. Matter can have no feeling. And consciousness, because it is complete, because it is full, because not subject to being birth and not subject to birth and death or any kind of changes, there is no reason to be bound. So consciousness can never feel bound because it is what it is, and matter also being what it is. It is matter. It is jadam. So there also bondage cannot be. Then where is the bondage? Now, logically, we cannot establish bondage. Still, we feel it. Nahi drashtuhu anupapannam nama. We feel it very intimately that I am bound, I am limited. There is sorrow in my life. There is grief in my life. Who is feeling this? Is it the matter feeling or is it the consciousness feeling? By what we have come to conclusion so far, none of these two. There are only these two things. And none of these two can feel this. Then who is feeling? And how does this matter appear to be conscious? How does this matter? Body is also matter. Pranas, vital air are also matter. They fall in that category. Plus mind, plus sense organs, plus intellect. All of this is inert. Then how do they behave? How do they appear to be conscious? This is a mood question which we will have to explain. So verse 6 now explains this. So let us read verse 6. Chichaya veshato buddho bhanam dhistu dvidha stita ekaham krutiranyasyat antahkarana rupini. Now, we have already understood this much, that this whole complex called body-mind-intellect complex is inert. Still, it appears to be sentient. Even body appears to be sentient. Vital airs, mind, sense organs, everything appear to be sentient. How is that happening? So here author says, Chichaya aveshataha buddho bhanam. Now understand this very well. See, buddhi means intellect. These words are interchangeably used. Sometimes they use the word antakarana, which means heart, which has four things. Their intellect is also there, mind is also there, chitta is also there. So all this can be called antakarana. For the same antakarana, depending upon the kind of function that it does, it gets these different names. When it is vacillating between should I do this or should I not do this, then it is called mind. The same antakarana is called mind. One part of the antakarana, the inner organ, can be called mind when it vacillates. Should I do this? Should I go? Should I not go? That is called mind. But when it comes to the resolve, no, I'm definitely going to attend the class. This resolve is taken. Then it is the function of the antakarana. When it does this, it is called intellect. It is called intellect. And when you remember something, when you are remembering something, oh, last night I did not have good sleep. Oh, last night, last evening I was not well. Like that, when you remember, it is called chitta. It is called chitta. And when there is I sense in it, it is called ahankara. Okay? So this same intellect, depending upon the kind of vritti, the kind of thought that there is, can be called either mind, either intellect, either chitta or ahankara. Okay. Now, all of this fall in the category of matter. Understood? As we have already discussed, there are only two things. One is consciousness, another is matter. Call it Purusha and Prakriti. Call it seer, call it seed. Call it Atma, call it Anatma. Okay? This much we know. Now, whatever comes, matter is inert. But in matter, there are two types. In matter, also, there are two types. One is gross matter and another is subtle matter. Gross is that which can be perceived. Gross matter is that which can be perceived. Just as this body can be, just as this pot can be perceived, so it is called gross matter. Similarly, the body is also, in which category? It will be also gross matter. But in the same matter, there is this, there are these sense organs, there is this mind, there is this intellect. Do we perceive that? Do we perceive the mind? Do we perceive the intellect? No. So they are called subtle matter. They fall in the category of matter, yes, but subtle matter. Okay? It is very important, because even though the mind is matter, still it is a different kind of matter. It is subtle matter. And matter which is subtle, particularly mind, has some unique capacity. So that we will come to. So now, here the intellect is twofold. Buddho, bhanam, these two dvidastita. Our intellect is twofold. In the intellect, there are these two things. Call it heart or call it intellect. It is twofold. One in the intellect itself. One is called subject and the other one is called object. The subject aspect in the intellect, remember, in the antakarana, there are these two thoughts. One is called the subject thought, other is called the object thought. One is called the I thought in the intellect itself, and the other one is the object thought, you thought. Okay? Now, the most subtlest in this whole complex, in this entire complex, we can very well see that gross body is not subtle, vital airs are not that subtle. Then we come to the antakarana, where which part is the most subtlest? The intellect is the subtlest. But even in the intellect, of the two thoughts, I thought and you thought, this I thought in the intellect is the most subtlest. Okay? It is the most subtlest. So, now, the consciousness enters this I thought. Consciousness enters of the entire complex, it first enters into this I thought. So now, even though this I thought also is matter, what happens? It gets enlivened. It gets enlivened. I will give you another example. Say there is sun in the sky. Sun in the sky. And below there is a bucket full of water. Bucket is not empty. There is water in the bucket. Okay? Now, had the bucket been empty, the sun would not have got reflected in the bucket. But there is this bucket. Look, you can think of this as bucket. There is water inside, and the sun is getting reflected here. So far, the water inside was not full of light. But moment the sun got reflected in the water, now this water has also become light. It has got enlivened. And it can now reflect. It can now, so far it was dark, but now it has some light in it. Why? Because sun has got reflected here. Now this water, you can use this water and the light inside to light up other things. Children, sometimes play pranks. They keep the mirror in a certain angle, they receive the sunlight in that angle, and then they will use it in such a way that it falls in somebody's eyes. Understood? So straight away the mirror cannot do. But when it receives the reflection of the sun in a certain angle, then it can be used to light up other things. So if this water, the bucket filled with water is kept in the room in a certain way, it can light up the entire room. Before it could not do. But now when it receives the reflection, it can do. Similarly, now come back to our thing. Consciousness is I'm just try to understand. in the sky. Consciousness is like that. And our gross body can be compared to the what? To the bucket. And the subtle body can be compared to water. Just as in the pot, this is the bucket, and inside there is water where the reflection of the sun enters. Sun gets reflected. Similarly, this gross body is there, which is in the place, can be compared to the bucket. And there is such subtle body. Subtle body, which again I showed you. There are two vrittis, two things in that subtle body, which are that I sense and the you sense. So one is called I thought, other one is you thought. In the you thought comes what? In the you thought comes memory, mind, and intellect. These three things come in the you thought. And in the I thought comes what? The ego. The I thought means the egoity. So now in this intellect, the subtlest part of the intellect is this I thought. And that which is the subtlest will receive the reflection first. It will receive the reflection of the sun first. Just as the dark wall or that which is opaque will not receive the reflection. Only that surface which is shining will receive the reflection of the sun. Or there can be a mirror. In the mirror, whose image will get reflected? If only mirror can reflect. A dark wall will not reflect. Similarly, if the gross body will not be able to catch the consciousness. And sense organs will not be able to catch the consciousness. The entire subtle body also may not catch. But which part of the subtle body will catch the consciousness first? The I thought. The I thought will receive the consciousness first. And that is how, even though all of them are inert, they become sentient. First, the I thought will become sentient. That is the part of the mind. Because mind means I thought, you thought. The first I thought will become sentient, thanks to the reflection which has entered. And then, gradually, it will pass the sentiency to other aspects. Which aspects? The you thought, which comprises of vital air, chitta, that is memory, intellect, the rest of that. It will pass on there, and then from that, the sentiency will pass on to the gross body. Understood? This is how the body and the entire complex, body, mind, intellect, ego complex, which is in reality matter, which is in reality jadam, inert, and yet it behaves as if it is sentient. Thanks to what? Thanks to this I vritti, aham vritti, or the subject thought in the intellect. Subject thought in the intellect. So, the verse now says, because the question in our mind is, how come the body which is inert, the mind which is inert, as you said, how do they appear to be sentient? This doesn't appear to be sentient. This is not sentient. Even gross body is not sentient. But there is something, as I said, there is one part of the matter which is called subtle body, which receives consciousness. So wherever, this is the rule, that wherever there is subtle body means sukshma sharira, which cannot be perceived. You can perceive the gross body. Anything that is gross can be perceived. But anything that is subtle, which even though is matter, cannot be perceived. Mind falls in that category. Sense organs fall in that category. But they being subtle, and even in them, that I thought is the subtlest. So what happens? Chit chaya aveshatah. Chit chaya ave. Chit means consciousness, and its reflection. Chaya means reflection. So, consciousness has not really entered, just as sun has not really entered here, but has entered in terms of what? In terms of reflection. But moment the water is there, then you cannot stop the reflection of the sun. Sun has to be in the sky, anything, moon, sun, anyone. Any shining object is there, and here there is that reflecting medium is there. Water here, if the water is there, you can't stop the reflection. Similarly, consciousness is everywhere. And it's chaya. This is an example. See, don't stretch the example too much. But this is in Vedanta, this is called Pratibimbavada. There are two vadas. Two vadas means two ways of explaining how we have this sense of ego. How consciousness, there are only two things, consciousness and matter. And still how this gross body and the mind becomes conscious. How is there this sense of egoism? Who is this Jivatma? Who is this individual? Who is this one whom we call individual? This is a prakriya. This is a model to explain why we feel the way we feel. Okay? So, first of all, we are explaining this, that consciousness aveshataha. Aveshata means because of its entrance, because of its entry. Entry in with no real entry. It doesn't travel from there to enter into the body. No. That kind of travel is not there. But traveling in the sense of reflection, getting reflected. It gets reflected in buddhi. Buddho chit chaya aveshataha buddho bhanam. Buddho means this antakarana. The intellect becomes enlivened. It is, even though inert, it has become enlivened. Just as I will tell you, that there is, we can explain this with the example of a fan. The wings are there, but they will not move. In that fan, the wings are there. They will, on their own, they won't move. Then there is a motor. Then electricity is there. When the electricity touches the motor and the tungsten wire in that motor, then the electricity is conducted. And then the motor starts moving, and because of the motor, the wings also starts moving. On its own, electricity would not have given us the breeze. Electricity alone would not have been enough. On its own, motor would not have been enough, nor would the wings would have been enough. But electricity being there, and then when it comes in contact, when it touches the tungsten filament in the motor, then it gets enlivened. And then from there, because a motor has become enlivened, it passes on that to the wings. And then it starts moving. Nor can the wings do it on its own, nor can the electricity do it on its own. Power cannot do it on its own. But when, in the presence of the power, the tungsten filament gets enlivened or conducted in that example, then this event is possible. Similarly here, the matter cannot do anything. Consciousness cannot do. But when the consciousness enters the body and the subtle body, and that too in the subtle body, in that I sense. So because these two vidastita, the intellect is twofold. Which are those two? Subject thought, object thought. The subject thought is called eka ahankrutihi. It is called I thought. This is the subtlest part. This is very important. And the other one is antakarana rupidi. Other one is the instrument. Because first of all, whenever we want to do something, first of all, what gets triggered? Oh, I want to drink water. Who will first think? This ego, the I sense. I want to drink water. Then it will give order to the hands. Please get the glass. I want to go. First that thing will come in the I. Then there are instruments. In one antakarana, one is the doer And the rest of them are instruments. Which are they? Ego part is the doer, the main one, ego, and the rest of the three. Which are they? Intellect, mind, chitta, sense organs. All of them will follow the commands of the I thought. So first of all, the reflection will be caught by this one, I thought. And then it passes on to the rest of the stages. Okay. Now the question is, who is this? Who feels bound? Who feels bound? That is answered in the next verse. So this is very, very necessary to understand our life. See, when it is said that you are Atma, you are consciousness, but still, and you are full, you are all complete, you are Brahman, but still, when this knowledge doesn't sink, we still continue to feel bound. We still continue to feel limited and wanting. Why do we feel that? And who feels that? Consciousness cannot feel that because it is complete. Body is inert, that also will not feel. Then who is feeling? Who is feeling that? There is a third entity. There seems to be a third entity. Everybody think. Consciousness cannot feel. Body, mind, all of them are also inert. But now this phenomenon has taken place. Keep this in mind. Which phenomenon has taken place? The consciousness has entered this gross, subtle and the gross body through reflection. Entered means reflect. When I look in the mirror, there is a mirror before me. Supposing this is mirror. Supposing this is mirror. This is the mirror. And when I look, I am standing here. Then moment I am standing here and the mirror is there, what will happen? The reflection will fall. You can't stop it. When this is there and when I am there, reflection is bound to enter. And now, what happens? If I forget, and this mirror is not up to the mark, say it does not reflect me very well. Mirror has many limitations. It has cracks. It has cracks inside, plus the surface is not good enough. So there are some mirrors, which make me look very tall. There are some mirrors which make me look very fat and chubby and all that. So looking into this mirror, I get the complex. What? Oh, I'm so dull. I'm so chubby. I have put on weight. And moment you get, oh my goodness, now I'll have to be on diet. How am I looking? All this. Now tell me, where is the problem and who is the problem? Does the mirror have the problem? I am also fine. I also doesn't have the problem. But I, looking inside this, looking at the reflection, what complex do I get? I am not fine. I am not fine. So this one, I forgetting that I am what I am and taking this to be I is called ego. Understood? That is Jivatma. Just as, to come back to the other example, sun in the sky has no problems at all. Is very big dimension and bigger and full of light, principle of light. That is what sun is. And when it looks into the pot of water, that water unfortunately is dull, is muddy, is dull and muddy and is shaking also. Now, this water on it, as it is, has no problem. Sun has no problem. But where is the problem? When sun looks, when it sees its own reflection. When sun sees its own reflection and finds that, oh my God, I'm dull, I'm muddy, and I'm moving. And it forgets. What does it forget? That I am really in the sky. I have nothing to do with all this. I'm not really dull. This water cannot make me dull in any, but sun forgets its reality. Sun in the sky forgets its reality and takes himself to be what? This one. Takes the reflection to be I. It is here that samsara begins. Understand? It is here that the samsara, that is life of becoming, taking oneself to be small, begins. When? If the sun knew, I am being reflected, what is wrong with that? There may be any number of buckets, and there may be any amount of reflections, fine. I can enjoy all of those reflections. Then fine, then there is no problem. But problem begins. It begins when? When the sun in the sky, understand this very well, sun in the sky forgets. Why, you may ask, why will it forget? It forgets. We do not know why. There is no reason for ignorance. Ignorance is there. Maya is there. There is no reason for it. Anirvachaniya. It is indescribable. You cannot say why, because you will never find the reason. What is the reason for the sun to forget that it is full of light? And whatever is there is because of it. But somehow it forgets and takes himself to be the reflection. And then life of becoming has begun. Moment it sees himself as this one, and then unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, there are many such pots. Many. There are many such pots, containers. And in each one of them, sun is getting reflected. In each one of them, naturally. Because water is there, it will get reflected in each one of them. In one big, in one small, in one dull, in this, if the water is very bright, water is very clean, like supposing there may be a river, Ganga river over there, very bright, very pure. The sun will be all pure. And there may be a gutter passing by near the Ganges. In that, the reflection will be different. Now sun will compare. Compare himself with what? I am so dull. The reflection in the gutter is so small and shaky and dull and smells also. This reflection compares itself with the reflection beside it. There, looks everywhere, and everywhere it has thousands of complexes. I am small. And then then the desires come. Now the desires begin. What desires? I want to become big. I want to become big like the other one. Forgets that there also who is getting reflected? I am only getting reflected. But this knowledge doesn't remain. That is called avidya. Because of which sun forgets its reality and begins to look here, every. All of a sudden, so many suns are born. So, now how many suns are there? As many reflections are there. Now, one has become many. One has become many. And comparison. And all the complexes begin. So that is why they say how many thousands of complexes this individual suffers from. Not one or two. Somewhere looking at bigger reflection, he will have inferiority complex. So looking at the smaller one, he will have superiority complex. And so many different desires and limitations one will feel. And who is feeling all this? Sun. Does it have any reason to feel that? Container has no reason to feel. Water also has no reason to feel. Sun also has no reason to feel. But the sun looking at the reflection, and reflection you can't stop. When the water is there, sun is bound to get reflected. So reflection you cannot stop. Only thing you need is to know the reality. That In spite of getting reflected, I am not that. I'm not that means I look like that. I look dull thanks to what? Water. I look moving, I'm shaking thanks to water because it is shaking. So now this reflection has the property of both. The sun in the sky plus the attributes of the water. Who will have? The reflection will have. So this is explaining. This is called prakriya. This is a model. This is a way of thinking. It is called a model. In Vedanta, it is called prakriya. Acharyas, teachers have come up with this different prakriyas, models, to explain why we feel small, why we feel limited, in spite of being Brahman, in spite of being limitless, not bound by time, not bound by space, not bound by objectivity or any kind of limitation. Why do I feel small? Why do I take myself to be a woman? Why do I take myself to be poor? Why do I take myself to be, I'm not intelligent enough, others are very... Why this suffering? Because you have forgotten what you are and you are taking this reflection to be real. And this much has happened, that sun has entered into the gross body, into the subtle body, in the subtlest aspect, I-vritti. And that is how the body became sentient. So wherever subtle body is, their sentiency gets manifest. See, here subtle body is not there. So even though consciousness is everywhere, that you were asking, consciousness is everywhere, but where will it manifest? Where will it manifest? Where subtle body is. Only subtle body, which is also matter, but different kind of matter. Only where subtle body is, there consciousness will manifest. Even though it is everywhere. Asti bhati priyam, that is consciousness is everywhere. Sat chit anand, existence, consciousness, happiness is everywhere. It is the reality of everything in this creation. Even here it is, everywhere. Show me a place where it is not. But it gets manifest only where subtle body is. So human beings have subtle body. Animals have subtle body. All the beings have subtle body. Even plants, vegetation, they also have subtle body. So there you see sentiency. Understood? Sentience, thing can become sentient only when there is presence of subtle body. Just as electricity will manifest only when there is a medium which can catch the electricity. A wooden rod will not catch. Only a tungsten rod will catch. So, similarly, consciousness is everywhere. Everywhere. Even in a rock. Even in a grain of sand. Everywhere it is. But will manifest only where subtle body is. And human body means the I thought in the intellect. The I thought in the intellect is it can manifest the Sat consciousness in the best way. In the best way. In plants and vegetations and in trees, they appear sentient. They are sentient, but not to the extent as much as it comes out in human beings or animals. In animals also not that much. They are also live and everything. But most in the best way, it comes out in human intellect, in the I thought. So there is entry, as it were. Entry, as it were. Sun has not entered, but it enters in the form of reflection. So chit chaya. Chaya means shadow. Chaya means reflection. Reflection of the consciousness has entered. Okay, now we are coming to verse number 7. Now here what is going to be explained is, as we have already explained, that how first the subtle body becomes sentient, and from there it passes on to the gross body. Okay, so that is being explained. Verse number 7. Chaya hankara yoraikyam taptaya pindavan matam tadahankara tadatmyat dehaschetanatamagad. Now, Chaya anka ahankara yoho aikyam. What is the oneness? What is the kind of oneness or coming together which consciousness and its reflection enjoys? So what kind of union is that? Between which two? Between which two? Chaya means reflection and ahankara. So reflection of in coming back to the example, reflection of the sun entering into water. Here, reflection of consciousness entering into I thought of the mind. So they two come together. What kind of union is that? So it is explained here. Taptaya pindavan matam. It is like red hot iron ball. Now here also, when you see taptaya pindavan matam, a iron ball is heated up. Mass of iron is heated up. And when it is heated up, it becomes red. And then we call it red hot ball. There are two. When you see a red hot ball, in fact, there are two things. There is iron also, and it appears red and heat. It is quite, it is quite hot also, because that is due to fire. So there are two elements over there, fire and iron. Now fire is altogether different. Iron is altogether different. Iron by nature is cold, plus it has a shape. Fire is hot. Fire, when it is hot, it is red, and it has no shape. But when these two come together, when iron ball is heated up, then what happens? These two merge together. Who two merge together? Iron and fire. So now, instead of two, we see one. So far we were seeing iron and fire, but now they have come together. When iron is heated up, it becomes now what? Red hot ball. In that, now tell me, now separate. In that, redness belongs to what? To fire. Roundness belongs to really iron. But we have to know this, otherwise these two are merged. They have become one. Fire was fire, iron was iron. Iron was cold and round. Fire is hot but without shape. But when they come together, they get identified. They get identified and appears as one. Similarly, the aikya, the oneness between consciousness, the reflection of consciousness, and the subtle body is like what? Like this red hot ball. Just as iron is different, fire is different. But when they come together, they look one. Similarly, consciousness is consciousness, no shape, no attributes, no sense of bondage. All full, complete existence, consciousness, happiness. This is its nature. But when it gets reflected in the I thought, now I thought is what? Limited. Subtle body is also limited. So, moment it gets reflected in this I thought, it feels what? It feels what? I am small. Just as fire and iron become one, Similarly here, which two becomes one as it were? Reflection and ego, I thought. So now, consciousness forgets its reality and thinks I'm small. This is how we have the sense of smallness. This is our Atma. Apnoti sarvam iti Atma. The meaning of Atma is that it pervades everything. It obtains everywhere, but still looks limited. Why? Because through reflection, it has entered here. And this is what's small. I thought is small, plus the body which contains the I thought is also small. I'm only woman and not other things. Only wife, not that. Limited in so many ways. Naturally, if you identify with that, you will feel that. What is this thing called identify? It is called tadatmya. Tadatmya means getting identified. I will give you another example. When you are watching a cricket match going on, it was there it is going on nowadays. When you watch that cricket match, then if your team is losing, you are not losing. You are watching that movie or cricket. Say, let us see, you are watching a movie. In the movie, this fellow has lost his wife. The hero has lost his wife. And he is shedding tears. Here, watching the movie, you also shed tears. Or if he gets married and they are enjoying, here you also start jumping and enjoy. Why? What have you got to do with that? But still, why? This is called identification. You get identified with that. Similarly, consciousness gets identified with the I, becomes one, just as fire and iron ball became one. Similarly, this consciousness is now looking at its reflection in the body, in the subtle body, and thinks I'm this much. Just as sun thinks I'm only this much. This is called identification. And that is why it feels small. But one thing definitely happened. Tada ahankara tadatmyat dehaha chetanatam agat. So first, who received the consciousness? In the subtle body, I thought received consciousness. Then, from there, it passes on to the you thought. This is the other three. First, I thought, that is egoity. And the rest of them were intellect, chitta, and intellect, mind, and chitta. This is the other part of the antakarana. They received. So they also become sentient. Then it passes on to sense organs. They also become sentient. Eyes also begin to see. Ears begin to hear. Sense of touch feels all this. And then it passes from there, it passes to what? To the gross body. So the gross body also becomes sentient in gradation, in sequence. First I thought, then you thought in the intellect, then the rest of the body. Moment this subtle body goes, moment when the time is over now. To be here in this body, my karmas, my prarabdha is over. So now, moment the subtle body leaves. Subtle body leaves means who leaves? Here there is reflection. The time is over for the water to be here. Why? Because the pot is now going to get disintegrated. According to the destiny, the pot is going to break. So now what happens? The water, the Ishvara's design is there. The water now gets transferred here. And now what happens? This becomes dark, and moment the subtle body leaves, this which was enlivened because of the presence of the subtle body becomes dead. So the person may be talking to us, laughing with us. And when the time comes, all of a sudden, we find, oh my God, what happened? They just fall. Massive attack. Massive attack means something has happened. What has happened? Who has gone? Ego, the I thought, and the reflection that it had, because of which this was sentient, is gone to another body. So now this this gross body, so far the hand is moving, eyes are seeing, all this we can do. Moment it leaves, what happens? Can't move. The head falls down. They do what the doctors do, they close the eyes. You can't, now close. You can't tell them. They close it because it looks very, so they close it. Why? Because of which it was moving, that because of which it is sentient, has gone. Why was it sentient? Was due to chit-chaya, reflection of consciousness. So the entire body became sentient. It leaves, sentiency is no more there. The body, then you can't do anything with that body. And we respect sentience, we respect that life. Moment it is dead, how long are we going to keep it? We will not keep it. Why? The person has gone. The Jivatma has gone. It's no more there. So, it is as good as nothing for us. So, what is the now? Now that author is showing us what kind of identification is enjoyed by the ego and the reflection. What kind of identification they enjoy? That is being shown in verse number 8. 3 kinds of identifications are there. Let us see, this is all important. Don't again and again, I am repeating that we are not like getting information of Vedanta. This applies to our life. All this is applicable in life. We should know that this is inert. Even mind is instrument. I am getting identified with the mind. In reality, mind is matter. When I say I'm unhappy, tell me which two have come together. When in this one sentence, I am unhappy, there are 2 elements. Which 2 elements? I and you. Which is I? I means consciousness. Which part is that? I. I am unhappy. Where does this I am is the part of consciousness. Unhappy part, where does it belong? To the mind. But not knowing this, I join myself with the mind and brand myself as unhappy. Forgetting that the unhappy part belongs to the mind, but this identification is there. Similarly, I call myself a jiva, a human being. Where is this human being? Where is it? Consciousness is not a human being. Consciousness is consciousness, no shape, no form, no attributes, nothing. But when you say you are human being, that human being part belongs to the body, subtle body and the gross body. And I belongs to consciousness. But we join them. When we are speaking and interacting, we have to use these words. You cannot say when you are going to the dining hall and things like that. Don't say body is going. Body wants food. When you speak like that, a lot of confusion is created. Don't speak like that. But in your mind, you should know who is walking. When I say I am walking, who is walking? When I say I am thinking, who is thinking? But mind in the presence of this. Otherwise, this mind cannot think. Mind cannot move. Not a leaf can move. Nothing can happen. it is the presence of this, thanks to the presence of consciousness. It is the blessing principle. It is the only one which is conscious. There is difference between sentiency and consciousness. Sentiency is possible where there is subtle body. Wherever there is subtle body, consciousness will manifest. Just as wherever there is water or any shining surface, sun will get reflected. In the opaque, sun will not get reflected. In a dark wall, sun will not get reflected. So, consciousness is everywhere. That is one thing. But its manifestation, its expression is possible only where there is that media. Which media? Which media? Subtle body. And in that, I thought. You should know this. Okay. So, having done that, now it is showing us, author will now show us what kind of identification this ego enjoys with different things. Let us read that. Verse number 8. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chichaya deha sakshibihi sahajam karmajam bhranti janyam cha trividham kramad. See now. Now this ahankara. Ahankara, when I say I'm so and so, who is that? Who is that? When I say I'm daughter of such and such, I'm a CEO, I'm an engineer, I'm this, who is that? It is ahankara. Ahankara along with reflected consciousness. So I am so and so. That their I part is pure consciousness. But so and so part, which I have lumped in that I, belongs to the subtle body and the gross body. Keep this in mind. Now this I is identified with three things. One is with the entry of one is with the reflected consciousness, second is with the body, and third one is with consciousness. In what way they are identified, that is being explained. In three ways they are identified. One is sahajam, one is natural, another one is born of karmas which we have done in the past, and third one is out of delusion. I will explain to you. See, wherever, as I said, wherever consciousness is, and wherever subtle body is, what will happen? It will get reflected. Just as wherever mirror is and I come in contact with the mirror, I will get reflected. You can't stop it. And there is nothing wrong in that. When the mirror is there, the image will get reflected in the mirror. When the sun is there, it will get reflected in the water or any shining surface. Similarly, when subtle body is there, and I thought in the subtle body is there, what will get reflected? Consciousness will get reflected. This is called natural. This is called sahajam. Sahajam means moment these two come together. Consciousness is going to get reflected. You can't stop it. You cannot stop it in any way. That is called sahajam. It is called natural. This is one. How long will I have a particular body? How long a jivatma will have a particular body, gross body? How long? That will be determined by second one, karmajam. How long will I be in this body? As long as my actions, which are bound to get fructified here, so long I will remain in this body. So how long I will continue to court this one body depends upon not age. Depends upon what? the karmas. As long as the karmas, the actions which are already, put on the motion, as long as they are there, so long I will have this body. So the association of reflected consciousness and this ego will depend upon what? Will depend upon karmas. Sometimes a jiva has come in our life and he may be very young but still passes away. Not old, body is also fit, but still passes away. And we wonder why. This was not the time for you to go. And we start wailing and crying and naturally. But what is gone, what is exhausted? Karmas are exhausted. So the association will remain of the reflection in a particular body as long as the karmas last. When the karmas are over, and that is decided by Ishvara, he decides. Keeping in view my karmas, whatever actions I have performed, keeping in mind, he decides that how long here, how long elsewhere, how much is to be fructified here, and how much in other body, that he decides. He is Sarvagni, he is all powerful, and he is all knowledgeable. Sarvagni, omnipotent and omniscient, only he can do. But that much time I will remain here. So the association of reflected consciousness here in this body is dependent upon those karmas. Okay, for second one. Now the third one. But what kind of association does the sun has with the reflection? Brantija. If the sun looks upon itself as being of the size of the reflection, as I said earlier, if the sun forgets who I am and gets identified with this reflection in this bucket and thinks I'm this much, then this is what kind of association? This is the association born of delusion. Brantijam, delusion. It is called delusion, Branti. Because it has not really entered, nor is it really small. Sun is not really small, but takes himself to be dull and small. Thanks to ignorance, thanks to the identification, thinks that I am only this much and suffers. That is born of Branti, born of delusion. Let me tell you, we can work only here. We can do something with our willpower here. Ishvara has given us willpower, purushartha, the capacity to work hard and get this knowledge. The sun, even though it is in the sky, it thinks that I am this and suffers. So Bhagavan has given him that intellect. With the intellect, think and find out whether you are really here or whether this is just a reflection. Nothing has happened to you. You are what you are. So there one can work hard. As far as the falling of reflection is concerned, we can't do anything. When the water is there and the sun is there, it is bound to get reflected. There we cannot do anything. Similarly, when the body is there and the subtle body is there, consciousness will get reflected. We can't do anything about it. And this association will last as long as what is there? Karma. That also we cannot do anything. Where can we work? We can exercise our willpower. We can use our intellect in getting this knowledge. Oh my God, who am I? Am I there? Am I that reflection? Yes, I am reflection. But which part of the reflection? That light part of the reflection. Not the dull part. The dullness belongs to water. The moving aspect belongs to water. But that is something which belongs to sun. Similarly, when I am getting reflect in the subtle body, I call myself I am woman, I am man. There we have to remove this delusion. What? I is consciousness. Woman part is body. Woman part doesn't belong to me. So the woman part I should remove. Remove where? Here, in the mind. So that is knowledge. I am not bound. Just as the actor, to give you another example, actor wears the costume of a beggar. Wearing the costume of a beggar, nothing wrong. That is called sahaja, natural, because he is an actor and he plays different roles. So he will put on the role of a costume of a beggar. That is fine. But how long will that last? As long as the role lasts. That is also fine. But where is the problem? When the actor takes himself to be beggar, wearing the costume has had such an effect upon him that he takes himself to be beggar and forgets that he is Amitabh Bachchan. Forgets who he is and takes himself to be a beggar. Then that is samsara. That is the play of ignorance. It is only there where we can work. So this part has more or less explained everything. But author is going in great details. We will look into this tomorrow from the next class. Om Purnamatav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Now we will have Arati.
May I just make one comment?
Yes, sure.
You made a statement in explaining all of this.
Mm-hmm.
The consciousness feels small.
Mm.
Now that's a simple statement, but it's like in the midst of what we have understood the consciousness.
Yeah, when we bend, yes.
It's unlimited, it is unbound.
Yes, but do we know that? If you knew it, you will not feel.
I think Swamis and Swamini have told us.
True. Then there is no samsara for you. If you know it, you are in the body, you are in the, but you are walking, talking, everything, but you are free. You are free. Just as the actor, if he knows that I'm just playing the role, I've put on this costume, but he doesn't feel beggarly.
So the bottom line is consciousness is the one who is in bondage. Is that the point that is being made?
Yes, consciousness himself, we cannot call it himself or herself, but consciousness feels limited. That is individual. Consciousness, when it gets identified with the mind and the body, it is called Jivatma.
Right.
Understood? But when that identification goes,
Yeah, I understand that the consciousness is reflected in the I thought, and that gets identified with ego and this body-mind complex. That begins to think, it's limited, it is inadequate. But I still have a problem. Consciousness being deluded, or
consciousness gets diluted because of ignorance. Ignorance is there. Ajnanam is there. We all are born with it. Even though we are Atma, Brahman, we take ourselves to be body. Why? And in spite of being told that you are Brahman, it doesn't sink. Right. Once in a while it sinks, otherwise half of the times it goes away. Why? Because we feel we are limited. We are bound by the body. I am dying. I am small. Why? Because you identify. Just as the actor forgets its reality, identifies with beggar, then starts crying. Supposing before coming to the stage, actor has had too much of alcohol, supposing. Then they forget. They get into the role and think themselves to be the role itself. This is some.
Beginning left, right?
This is beginning. This is beginning. Yes.
Bondage.
But there is end to it.
Right, I understand that.
One question, what is...
Now we will talk about it. Now he wants to begin the arati. So